I got a pixie cut at 62 and cried in the salon chair. Not because it was bad, because I didn't know how to fix what was wrong with it, and neither did my stylist really explain it. Pixie cuts can be the most youthful, facelifting thing a woman over 60 can do to her look. They can also age you 10 years if even one small element is off. I've spent years researching what actually works for short hair on mature women, breaking down exactly what separates a pixie that flatters from one that doesn't, so you don't have to learn it in a salon chair like I did. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every week, and today we're going through 4 pixie cut mistakes that quietly age women over 60, and exactly how to fix each one. Part 1. The length that's cutting you wrong. Here's something almost nobody tells a woman getting her first pixie over 60. The exact same length can look sharp and modern on one face and add a decade on another, and it has nothing to do with the cut itself. It's about where that length ends relative to your jawline. Most women walk into the salon and ask for short, and that word alone is doing damage before the scissors even come out. The mistake is going uniformly short all over, buzzed sides, crop top, same length throughout. On a younger face, this reads edgy. On a mature face, where the jaw has softened and the neck has changed, uniform shortness removes the very thing that was giving your face shape. You end up with a silhouette that looks smaller and older instead of lifted and current. I recognized this the moment I saw a photo of myself from the side. My pixie was even, tidy, and correct by every technical measure, and somehow it made my whole face look flat. That's when I learned the fix, and it's a single sentence you say to your stylist that changes everything. Ask for graduated length, longer through the crown and nape, tapered shorter only at the temples. That phrase alone tells a stylist to build height and movement exactly where a mature face needs lift, instead of cutting everything to match. What this does structurally is simple but powerful. Length through the crown creates vertical lift, which visually elongates a face that started to soften and widen slightly with age. Tapering only at the temples, not everywhere, keeps the sides close enough to look clean without erasing the framing effect. Longer hair gives your bone structure. It's the difference between a pixie that frames you and one that just sits on your head. There's a woman named Rosalind in one of the comment sections I read regularly, and she described exactly this snapback moment. She'd been getting the same uniform pixie for 3 years, convinced it just wasn't her color that suited her anymore. One appointment where she used that exact graduated length phrasing, and her stylist adjusted the whole shape. Rosalind said the first thing her daughter said when she picked her up from the salon wasn't, "I like your haircut." It was, "Mom, when did your face look like that?" That's the kind of reaction the right length distribution gets. People notice the face first, not the haircut. The result isn't subtle. Women who make this one change report the same thing over and over. They stop looking cropped and start looking sculpted. There's a real difference between short hair that reads as low maintenance by default and short hair that reads as an intentional, elegant choice. Graduated length is what tips you into the second category. Before, uniform all over short pixie with no length variation, flattening the whole face. After, graduated pixie with lift through the crown and a soft taper at the temples, framing the face and adding visible height. That's the swap. And here's the thing. Length distribution is only half the story, because even a perfectly graduated pixie can be ruined by the next mistake almost every woman makes without realizing it. Part 2. The fringe choice that fights your forehead. Most women assume a fringe is a fringe. You either have bangs or you don't. But with a pixie specifically, the fringe isn't a separate decision from the cut. It's structurally connected to it, and getting it wrong doesn't just look off. It can make your whole pixie look accidental instead of styled. The mistake is a blunt, straight-across fringe cut to one uniform length, the kind you'd see on a much younger face or a costume wig. On fine, mature hair, a blunt fringe reads heavy and flat. It sits like a line drawn across the forehead instead of blending into the rest of the cut. And it draws attention to exactly the area, the forehead and brow, where softness is more flattering than a hard edge. I noticed this on myself in the worst possible way. A video call where the lighting was overhead and my blunt fringe cast a shadow line straight across my brow. It looked like I was scowling in every single frame, and I wasn't. The fix is asking for a piece-wide, textured fringe with soft, irregular ends, swept slightly to one side rather than blunt across. That single request changes the entire read of your face. Here's why it works. Irregular, piecewise ends break up the hard line a blunt fringe creates, letting light move through the fringe instead of stopping at it. Sweeping it slightly to one side, rather than centering it dead straight, opens up one side of the forehead completely, which softens the whole upper face. Texture in a fringe on fine hair also does something a blunt cut never can. It creates the illusion of more density, because piecewise ends catch and reflect light in a way that flat, single-length hair doesn't. There's a woman named Colette who wrote in describing almost the identical realization. She'd kept the same blunt, straight fringe for over a decade because it felt safe and neat. The day she asked for texture and a side sweep instead, she said her stylist actually laughed and said, "Finally, I've wanted to suggest this for years." Colette's snapback was immediate. She said for the first time in ages, people complimented her eyes first in a conversation, not her haircut. That's what a properly textured fringe does. It stops competing with your face and starts framing it. The result is a fringe that looks like it belongs to the rest of the cut, instead of sitting in front of it like an afterthought. It moves when you move. It softens harsh overhead lighting instead of amplifying it. And it does something blunt fringes never manage. It makes fine hair look fuller, simply through the way the ends catch light. Before, a blunt, straight-across fringe casting a hard shadow line over the brow. After, a piecewise, side-swept fringe with soft irregular ends that opens the forehead and adds visible fullness. That's the swap that changes how your whole face reads in a single glance. But even the right fringe can't save a pixie if the next mistake is happening at the same time. And it's one almost nobody thinks to ask their stylist about. Part 3. The color mistake that makes short hair look thinner. Nobody warns you that color behaves completely differently on short hair than on long hair. And this is the mistake that quietly undoes even a perfectly cut pixie. On long hair, flat, single process color can still look intentional because there's enough length for movement to break it up. On short hair, there's no length left to hide behind. Every inch is visible, all the time, from every angle. The mistake is going with one flat, uniform color, especially a solid gray, silver, or single-tone dye job with no variation. On a pixie, flat color does something specific and unflattering. It makes the cut look like a single solid block sitting on the head rather than a shaped dimensional style. It also flattens the appearance of density, making already fine hair look even thinner because there's no light and shadow play to suggest volume. I lived this mistake for almost 2 years. I'd gone fully gray and loved the color itself, but photos kept making my pixie look thinner than it actually was, and I couldn't figure out why until a colorist finally explained it to me plainly. The fix is asking for low lights and subtle tonal variation within the same color family. 2 to 3 shades of the same tone, not a contrasting color, just dimension. This isn't about changing your color. It's about adding depth inside the color you already have. Here's the mechanism. Multitonal color creates the appearance of shadow and light within the hair itself, even under flat lighting. On short hair, where every strand is visible, that dimension reads as texture and thickness, because your eye interprets tonal variation as depth rather than flatness. A single flat tone, no matter how beautiful the shade, can't create that illusion. It just sits there uniformly, and uniform reads as flat, and flat reads as thin. A woman named Diane described this exact shift after years of a completely flat silver dye. She added subtle lowlights in the same silver family, nothing dramatic, and said the change in photos was so noticeable her sister asked if she'd gotten extensions. She hadn't gained a single strand of hair. She'd simply added dimension that made every strand she already had look like more. That's the quiet power of tonal variation on short hair. It does the volume work that length alone would normally do for you. The result is hair that looks genuinely fuller in every photo, every mirror, every angle, without a single change to the cut itself. It's the cheapest, fastest fix in this entire video, and it's the one most women skip because they assume more color means more upkeep, when really it just means asking your colorist for tone, not a different shade entirely. Before, flat, single-tone gray with no variation, reading as thin and one-dimensional. After, the same gray family with subtle lowlights adding visible depth and fullness. That's the swap, and it's the one fix in this video you can request without changing a single thing about your cut. But there's one more mistake left, and it's the one that undoes the styling routine you do every single morning without knowing it. Part 4. The styling habit: undoing your cut every morning. This last mistake has nothing to do with the salon at all, and that's exactly why it's the one nobody catches. You can have the perfect graduated length, the perfect textured fringe, and beautifully dimensional color, and still undo all of it every single morning with one habit at the bathroom mirror, or wherever you get ready. The mistake is styling a pixie completely flat against the head, smoothing everything down with a brush or your palm before you've added any product. On fine, mature hair especially, gravity and flatness are the enemy of a pixie. Short hair styled flat doesn't read as sleek and polished the way it might on someone with thicker hair. It reads as deflated, like the cut has already grown out even on the day you left the salon. I made this exact mistake for months after my own pixie. I'd shower, towel dry, and smooth everything down out of habit, the same way I'd styled my hair for decades when it was longer. It wasn't until a stylist watched me do my own hair and stopped me mid-motion that I understood what I was doing wrong. The fix is a specific request and a specific technique together. Ask your stylist to show you how to apply a small amount of texturizing paste or mousse at the roots while the hair is still damp. Then dry with your fingers lifting upward at the crown, not a brush pulling down. The mechanism here is straightforward once you see it. Product at the root, applied while damp, coats each strand near the base and gives it something to hold onto as it dries, rather than collapsing flat under its own weight. Drying with lifted fingers instead of a downward brush trains the hair to dry in the direction of lift instead of the direction of gravity. Together, this is what creates that soft, voluminous, just left the salon look every single morning, instead of only on the day of your appointment. A woman I've seen mentioned more than once in the comments, Marguerite, said she'd blamed her flat hair days on her hair simply being too fine for a pixie to ever hold shape. It wasn't the hair. It was the styling. Once she switched to root application and finger lifting instead of brushing flat, she said her husband asked if she'd had it cut again that week, because it looked freshly done every single morning. That's the snapback, a 2-minute change in routine reading as a completely different level of upkeep and intention. The result is a pixie that looks deliberately styled instead of merely grown out and smoothed down. It holds its shape through the day. It photographs with visible volume instead of looking pressed flat. And it's the difference between a haircut that looks expensive and one that looks accidental, even when it's the exact same cut underneath. Before, hair smoothed flat against the head, deflated and pressed down from the root. After, root lift with damp applied product and finger drying, full volume held through the day. That's the fourth and final swap. And together, these 4 fixes are the entire difference between a pixie that quietly ages you and one that makes people ask what you did differently. You now know the 4 things that quietly separate a pixie that ages you from one that lifts you. Graduated length instead of uniform shortness, a textured side-swept fringe instead of a blunt line, tonal color depth instead of flat single tone, and root-lifted styling instead of pressing everything flat. That's not luck. That's the exact language and technique to bring into your next appointment, and now you have it. What's the one mistake out of these 4 you realize you've been making without knowing it? The length, the fringe, the color, or the styling? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. Next week I'm breaking down the exact questions to ask before any short haircut, so you never leave a salon chair disappointed again. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.